I think Wall Street was desperate. You had crybabies on Wall Street like Bill Ackman, hedge fund managers. It's always the billionaires who want to be bailed out, right? He cried. He was the one who proposed a 90-day pause. So it looks like Bill Ackman now is, he's making policy for the administration. Thursday, April 10th, 2025, Maneco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. Well, I'm sure a lot of you, your heads are turning with all the volatility, with all the twists and changes out there in policy from the U.S. administration. So what I want to talk about today is how President Trump took a mulligan as his trade policy backfired miserably. And I've been warning since last Friday of this as bond yields, treasury yields failed to drop, which was one of his objectives was to, cool down the stock market in order to bring yields down and make it easier for the Treasury to refinance. But it backfired miserably and monumentally as Besant's gambit failed, as I said in a video earlier this week. And a mulligan, of course, for those of you who play golf, is when you're playing with friends. This is not in competitive golf because in golf, we stick to the rules. The rule book is quite thick. You got to play as it lies, right? But when you're playing with friends, on the first hole, if you have a bad shot, you can take a mulligan, take another one. And I think that's what Trump's done. And there's a lot of people spinning what happened yesterday, that it's a victory, it's a great move from Trump, that it's isolated China. But as many of you know, I'm apolitical. I look to myself to lead my own life. I try not to, I don't depend on anyone else to keep my household and to keep my family going, because I think that's the only way. And it's one of the reasons why we're in such deep trouble. People feel entitled, right? And that's not the way I place things. And it doesn't mean to say that I don't think a lot of the other things President Trump has done are good. But I think he's gone completely the wrong way about trying to improve the international trading and monetary system. Maybe some people were saying he wanted to wreck it. But if he wanted to wreck it, he wouldn't have imposed a pause of 90 days yesterday. Yeah, I know he's exempted China from that. Not a great exemption, of course. China's still got now, I think, 125% tariffs. And I'm sure the Chinese are going to respond in a pretty tough way as well. But so why did it backfire originally, this trade policy? Well, I think it's because it was rushed. And I think President Trump, I have to say this though, he expects now a lot of these countries that he's given a 90-day, let's say, pause. He expects them to come to the table and negotiate now. And they will be, and his, I think, view is that the U.S. will have the upper hand in the negotiations, but I wouldn't be too sure about that. I wouldn't be too sure because the problem with what happened in the last week or so is that Besant's gambit completely failed. And I warned about this last week after I watched his interview with Tucker Carlson, because he let the whole world know what would really hurt him or hurt the Treasury, and that was rising long-term Treasury yields. He said that 5% was a no-no, and lo and behold, yesterday overnight, the 30-year bond yield reached 5%. Yes, he follows the 10-year, but the 10-year reached 4.5%, and that's after being at 3.85 last Friday. And the stock market was in complete meltdown. And there was talk yesterday in the mainstream financial press whether treasuries were still a safe haven, and questioning the quality and the safe haven quality of treasury is really bad news for the Trump administration. And I think that's why they backed down yesterday. Well, some people call it, a great move, a great negotiating move that he won. But I think Wall Street was desperate. You had crybabies on Wall Street like Bill Ackman, hedge fund managers. It's always the billionaires who want to be bailed out, right? He cried. He was the one who proposed a 90-day pause. So it looks like Bill Ackman now is, he's making policy for the administration. And I noticed that up until, after Tuesday's close, the NASDAQ was in bear market territory. The NASDAQ 100 was down more than 20%. And yesterday as well, prior to the pause, gold was having its first, I'm not sure if it's the first, but maybe in the 70s and late 70s, there was a $100 move, but I don't think there was. So yesterday, for the first time, gold was going up more than $100 in the day. Silver was picking up as well, and the stock market was still languishing. And then all of a sudden, we get this backtracking. Of course, it's been spun as a victory for Trump. And I will say when I think Trump has done something that's good, but I will also bring him up on his mistakes. And I think this was a big mistake, the way he implemented this trade policy. And I could be wrong. It's my opinion. He might very well get loads of countries now come and sit down and work out a deal. But I think countries now, other nations are pretty much, they've had it up to here because it's such the way he's done this is a little bit very much disruptive. But who knows, he might succeed. And I think China is the big problem, really. That's going to determine everything. And we have to wait and see how the Chinese respond. So maybe he should have implemented these. He should have sat down maybe before with other countries instead of bringing this wrecking ball. The problem is that he not only almost wrecked the financial system, he also alienated his allies even. Besant said yesterday, our allies are ready to sit down. They're going to help us. We're going to unite against China. I'm not too sure about that. So before we look at the banking regulatory regime and what's going on there, because there's some interesting news, just wanted to look at the markets like a snapshot of what we've done this year in terms of the stock market and gold and silver. So the Dow year to date now is down 4.5%. S&P is down 7.2%, and the NASDAQ is down 11%. Of course, yesterday the Dow was up almost 8%, S&P 9.5%, and NASDAQ 12.6%. And as you can see by this picture of the NASDAQ 100, the technical picture still doesn't look very good. So I would be very cautious. I don't think we're out of the woods yet in terms of the markets and even in terms of the bond market. Yes, the 10-year yield has dropped overnight to 432, but it's still a lot higher than what we saw last Friday. It was at 385. And yes, so what about the banking situation? Well, I noticed that Bessent now wants to take more power from the Federal Reserve as far as its role in banking regulation is concerned. You can see here from this article on Bloomberg. The other thing I'm hearing is that there's a thing called the supplementary leverage ratio. And what is that, or the SLR? Well, during COVID, that was removed. That's a regulation that says that banks, financial institutions, and other like insurance companies or pension funds, they can only hold a certain amount of U.S. treasuries. They can't go over a certain ratio. That was lifted during COVID in order to help the liquidity in the treasury market, because that was all over the place. That's the other thing as well that happened prior to yesterday's backtracking. In my opinion, it was a backtracking, not a victory. Was that we saw a lot of people questioning whether treasuries were a safe haven. And that's not a good thing, right? As I said. But now it looks like they want to remove this remove the SLR again, like they did during COVID. I think it was in 2021, later on that, or maybe even 2022, that Jay Powell put it back. So why is this important? Well, because it would mean that the Treasury would be pushing banks and financial institutions, pension funds, to buy more treasuries. And I think that's very dangerous, because I don't think treasuries are a safe haven anymore. We're approaching 37 trillion in terms of the national debt. And yes, Doge is doing good work, but you need to look at what presidents do, not what they say. A lot of people look back, let's say, at Ronald Reagan, and they think, yes, he was a great president, small government, but did you know that the national debt went up the most in percentage terms? That was the most that it increased in the post-war period. Yes, that was Ronald Reagan. He created, under his two administrations, the national debt grew more than any other time since World War II. Under the first Trump administration, as I recall, in 2019 fiscal year, they were running almost 6% budget deficit. So yes, there's all this talk that they're going to cut waste, they're going to cut taxes, cut spending. But one thing's for sure, the history of the post-war American political system is that every president allows the debt to go ballistic, especially after 1971. So I think you need to be aware of this, that I think banks won't be as safe, because they're going to have to hold more and more bonds. I said that I wanted to give my 2 cents on what I'd be doing to try to help not just America, but any other country like the UK that has the problems that we have, like of being just a service economy, living beyond our means, because that's what it is. That's the first thing. But there are a few points that we need to work on. So the first one, that's the most important one, and it comes to government and the spending, the size of government, is to bring back small government. But we've just seen that Bessent said a few weeks ago that he wants to help Main Street. Wall Street has to suffer, and that they need to cut the size of government and deficits. But then they come out yesterday and they they cave in to Bill Ackman and Wall Street. So we really need to, I think, not just in the US, but in the UK, be less entitled and expect less from government. Until we do that, nothing's going to change, in my opinion. The second point is, and I've been saying this ever since I started this channel, is one of the purposes of my channel, is to bring back sound money. The Constitution in the US tells you what money is, i.e. gold and silver, what the dollar is. So how do you go about bringing sound money? Well, you abolish the Federal Reserve, which is, I haven't heard President Trump or Scott Bessent talk about that. Because with the Federal Reserve in power, they're always going to bail out Wall Street, because that's the sole purpose of central banks, is to bail out the banks. So it's very simple. And until they do that, I think all these trade wars, these tariffs, they're just going to create more and more problem. They're not going to solve the problems of the world. Of course, China has a central bank. The UK has a central bank. So that's how I see it. Until we do that, all this is just a distraction. And that's why I'm sticking to my guns. That's why I'm holding on to my gold and silver. And you can see today, as I speak here, it's 8:45 a.m. London time. And we've got spot gold back above 3,100. Yes, we were, I think the low was 2,950. So the big winner is still gold. And talking about the big winner, gold is still up almost 20% year to date. And even silver, which has had a tough time in the last week or so, is up about 7%. Right now, silver is just below 31. It's pretty much unchanged. But I said earlier, we're not out of the woods yet in terms of the stock market. Well, the Dow is down 430 points right now, 1%. S&P is down 80 or 1.5%. The NASDAQ is down 350. So this reprieve might be very short-lived. So with that, I'm going to wish you all a very good day. Take care. Bye.